you know, sitting right in front of him. The one question I have coming out of this is, what is he going to do on health care? It took him 25 minutes to get to the issue that he has spent the last 9 months working on, and if it's not dead, it's kind of on the side of the road right now. We don't know where it is, and I think it was all but abandoned.
And Candy, I mean, it did seem, I mean, he gave no sort of even direction for what he would like to see in a, you know, theoretical world. House and Senate Democrats do in terms of health care.
He is often a president who leaves things open to interpretation, and I think this is one of those, because he didn't say, here's what I want what's there, pass it now, because the political reality is he's not going to get it. But we saw both a call for bipartisanship and some pretty tough partisanship. We saw any number of things that was on the one hand, on the other, and I think that's a carefully calculated speech that needs to apply to both attract his base, attract the independents, and, you know, talk bipartisanship.
All right, we're going to hear more from the White House before we get to everybody else. Wolf Blitzer has David Axelrod.
Yeah, let's go to David Axelrod, the president's senior advisor. He's joining us from Capitol Hill right now. David, what about that? Gloria Borger just made the point. It took 25 minutes into the speech before the president started talking about what had been his #1 legislative priority, getting health care reform passed.
Now, understand, Wolf, his #1 priority is dealing with the issues that are bedeviling middle-class families and our economy, and health care is one of those issues, and it's a big issue. He certainly addressed it, and nobody could leave that chamber believing that he was walking away from it. But there are other things on people's minds as well, not the least of which is the fact that we've lost 7 million jobs in the last 2 years since this recession began at the beginning of 2007, and that is a source of major concern. We need to create jobs in this country. We need to see wages start growing again, and we need to bring some security to the middle class and people who want to be middle class, and certainly health insurance reform is part of that. So he presented it in the proper context.
But getting a jobs bill through the Congress, that's legislative priority #1 right now, right?
Well, there's no question about that. You know, we still have an employment emergency in this country. We've tied off the bleeding to a large degree. We were losing 750,000 jobs a month when the president took office. We cut that by 90%, and hopefully we'll improve with each reporting period. But we're far from out of the woods, and for those 7 million people and the many millions more who were looking before or are discouraged now, who are underemployed, they are impatient for action. They're desperate for it, and we need the Senate to move as the House has moved.
All right, I want to show you something, David, because you're a good political guy. Soledad O'Brien just has the results of our CNN flash poll that we just took during the course of the president's speech, the aftermath of the president's speech. Soledad, what do the folks think?
Okay, so first of all, we're asking people who are watching the speech, and you should know, of course, more people who are watching the speech favor the party of the person who's giving the speech. That means, in short, more Democrats were being polled here. So when we asked people, what was your reaction, what did you think? Overwhelmingly, you had 48% had very positive response to the president's speech. 30% had somewhat positive. So that's up to 78% good news for the president there. That's a really good number for him. When you compare that to his speech last year, a decline, 20% decline. This year's speech, 48% had a positive reaction, a very positive. Last year's 68%. So big numbers there, but some good numbers for the president overall in the immediate aftermath from the folks who polled.
All right, thanks, Soledad. Let's bring back David Axelrod. You surprised by that number?
No, I think the president is very much working on the issues of concern to people, and he's also, I think he addressed what is another concern of people, which is whether this town gets too consumed by partisanship, too consumed in the power of lobbyists, and frankly, Wolf, too concerned by polls, and that people worry way too much about who's winning and who's losing and what's going to happen next November, not nearly enough about what we're going to do to move the country forward each day. The president wants to get both Democrats and Republicans to focus on solving the problems of the country, and particularly what he said to Republicans is you have to abandon the philosophy that somehow if the country loses that you win. You need to pick up an oar and start rowing here and help us solve some problems. I think the country desperately wants that, and we hope that they will respond.
Let me let you respond to one point made by the Republican response to the President's State of the Union address by the Virginia governor, or the newly elected governor, Bob McDonnell. At one point, referring to the Christmas Day bombing plot
abandon the
Detroit,
idea
he
that
said
if the
this
country
foreign terror
loses,
suspect was
you
given the same
win.
legal rights as a U.S.
Get
citizen
orange
and immediately
star.
stopped providing critical intelligence as Senator-elect Scott Brown
Come on,
says, we should be
Republicans.
spending taxpayer dollars to defeat
Stop that
terrorists,
philosophy.
not to protect them. All right, go ahead, Mr.
If the country fails, well,
Well, you know, it's interesting. The
will see.
20th 911 bomb
Get an
on
orange,
Sally
start
was tried
roaring.
in Article 3 of
Start
civilian
rolling
court,
now.
in the
Get
state
an
of
orange,
Virginia.
start
I don't
roaring.
recall, Mr. McDonald,
Start
I don't know if the Attorney General
rolling
at that point or
now.
not, protesting
Don't
that.
see
In
the
fact, most of
demise
Republicans
of
celebrated it. Rudy
the country
Giuliani
as
called it a
you
great
hold.
triumph for American justice.
Try
All through
to
the Bush
hold it
years,
dear and
all of
say
these
you
terrorists
know,
were tried
you
in
know
the civilian courts.
what
Tried,
it
they
is to
designated
be
2 of them
with
as
all
enemy
people
combatants
in
and then brought them back
solidarity
to civilian courts because it was the most
to work
effective,
together
expeditious
to
way,
help things
to
be.
bring them to justice, and they were brought to justice. So there's a little bit of hypocrisy now. I know, I understand people feel